Hello and welcome to the Allplane Podcast, where every week we explore an area of expertise between the commercial aviation industry. But first of all, a quick reminder that you can find these and all the preceding episodes of the Allplane Podcast, as well as many other interesting stories about airlines and commercial aviation on our website, Allplane.tv. I repeat, this is Allplane.tv. Today's guest, Jorge Diaz, is an entrepreneur working in a field that, although is kind of hidden from plain sight, has very important implications for the structure of the aviation industry and for airlines' operating costs. Jorge is the founder of Airgateway, a technology firm based in Berlin, Germany, that develops solutions based on a new technology standard called New Distribution Capability, or NDC in industry jargon. And what is NDC? Let's take a step back first. Those of you that, like me, tend to book your airplane tickets directly on airline websites might be a bit surprised to learn that still today, in 2020, a very significant percentage of airline sales are done through intermediaries. The Global Distribution Systems, or GDSs, my apologies for, again, another industry acronym, are the platforms that many travel agents use to book tickets for their customers. These GDSs take a cut from each transaction, but perhaps more importantly for the airlines, this is a channel that has also some limitations when it comes to marketing the sort of ancillary services that many airlines have come to increasingly rely on for their profits. This is the reason that IATA, the industry body that groups together many of the world's legacy full-service airlines, came up with this new tech standard called NDC. NDC aims to make it easier for intermediaries such as travel agents to provide a content and feature-rich booking channel similar to the one you already get on airlines' own websites, where all along the booking path you are usually offered things like better seats, premium in-flight meals, or a hotel at your destination, just to name a few. On this episode of the podcast, we talk with Jorge about how NDC can help airlines get these offerings in front of more people. And more generally, we talk about what NDC means for the industry and what are the other current trends in airline distribution. So, if you are into airline technology, get yourself comfortable for today's episode of the podcast. Without further ado, let me welcome Jorge to the show. Hello, Jorge. How are you?
Hi, Michael. Not bad. I'm currently in Spain, having kind of a half break time and this weird situation, this weird year that we are having. But I'm pretty good, I have to say.
Yes, I've seen some pictures you've been posting about your stay in beautiful Asturias in the north of Spain, and it's really an amazing area to spend the summer. Not too hot.
That's where I come from. That's my homeland, and I try to visit at least twice a year here.
Mm-hmm. But you are normally based in Berlin, and you are the founder and the CEO of a company called Airgateway, and it's a technology company. You're going to tell us now what you do, but you are developing solutions around what is called the NDC, which is quite a big thing for the aviation industry.
Yeah, that's correct. We created Airgateway almost 4 years ago now. Yeah, it's a company focused on solving, let's say, the so-called problem around the switch in the airline distribution model towards the standard NDC introduced by IATA and embraced mostly by the full service carrier.
So basically, when we get to this point, I will need to make a short pause to explain a little bit about this NDC thing. So NDC basically stands for New Distribution Capability. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not as much as an expert in this matter as you are, but it's basically a standard, a technological standard that facilitates the distribution of airline tickets in a much richer and broader way than before. So basically, if you're a travel agent that is booking a ticket, until now you had a very limited set of possibilities to do this booking, but with NDC, you can access pretty much the same amount of information about the flight, about the type of service on board, etc., that you may access directly through the airline website.
Yes, that's a way to say it. There is a huge debate in the industry, precisely. I mean, what's the motivation of NDC? And of course, here you have very different views and versions. The airlines want to have kind of the same capabilities or the same distribution flexibility, but also ownership. Also, it's a matter of ownership that they have on their B2C channels, which is a fully airline-owned channel. I mean, the so-called airline.com channel while partnering with agencies. That's pretty much the base of NDC, the reason to be. But as I said, it's unclear. There is a big debate, and we should have to do differentiation between the standard itself, which is a theoretical container, let's say, and the real implementations of NDC, because there's normally some gap between these two concepts. Whether it enables actually new retailing possibilities or not yet, or it's in the roadmap. I mean, it's a very complex debate, and we should evaluate this for each specific carrier, because of course the level of implication and adoption and deployment of each specific carrier is different in many cases.
What I would like to do is just do one step back to provide a sort of a snapshot of how this works. So basically, until now, you had people buying plane tickets, either direct, going to the airline website. So you go to Ryanair.com or you go to Lufthansa.com, and you see all the options there. And normally there's quite a lot of different options and ancillaries, and that's become more and more of a thing. So airlines have been adding additional services that you can book when you are booking a ticket. So then you book directly with the airline, you get your ticket, you get your ticket reference, etc. The other way that people book is they might go to an agent, for example, a corporate travel agent or some retail travel agent. And this travel agent, normally what he would do is just go connect to something called the GDS. And the GDS is a sort of intermediary that gets all this pricing information from the airline, and just issues the ticket. But there's some sort of an intermediary there. That's like 3 major GDSs that get also cut in this transaction. Now is when NDC comes into the stage, because NDC basically it's enabling. Can we say it's bypassing the GDSs in some way?
Yes. This expression has been literally used because, and it's, as I said, it's not only a matter of functionality or cost, which of course it matters as well, but also a matter of ownership. I mean, right now, if the airline, for instance, in the B2C channel that you mentioned before, in the airline.com, they have the so-called branded fares, which is a way to retail their own branded fares, as its name explicitly states. It's a way to state their own products with their own naming, with their own marketing, and that's something that NDC enables. I mean, the airlines are able to deliver branded fares through their NDC APIs, which is something that conceptually I would say that is almost impossible to put in the GDS world. And well, there are other sort of inefficiencies in the GDS world. I don't know if you know, but this is pretty shocking in the year 2020, but it's how it works right now. When an airline, all the tariff publishing workflow happens through an American company called ATPCO, literally standing for Airline Tariff Publishing Company, where all the 3 major GDSs pull the fares from. But this happens 3 or 4 times a day. So this doesn't enable the airlines to implement business logics and retailing logics, functionalities like the so-called dynamic pricing, which is being able to react immediately to demand. For instance, this is not doable because of all the tariff publishing model and the GDS model itself. So, and this is something which is under control. And the B2C channels, the airlines can do these practices actually. And these are the reasons mostly that the airlines use to pursue this NDC-based distribution.
So basically, the NDC, can we say it's an attempt by IATA to enable people that are booking through channels that are not the airline website to get access to all these additional services, ancillaries, etc., and in real-time dynamic pricing. So it's, in a way, it's kind of updating indirect distribution to the same standards that we had in direct distribution.
Yes, that's correct. It's a way to equal both. I mean, equal in terms of control and ownership as well. I mean, the thing is that the B2C distribution is totally under the control of the airline, but the B2B distribution is not. That's pretty much so. It's an attempt to bring the B2B distribution, means through an agency, no matter what kind of agency, to bring the distribution through partners, through agencies, let's call it, to the B2B distribution, to airline control or airline owned channel. That's pretty much probably the one-liner definition for NDC. I would always keep in this.
So NDC, it's a project from IATA, but we must say not every airline, not even every airline that is a member of IATA is on board of this, right? Some airlines are more enthusiastic than others. What's the situation right now? What's the panorama?
Well, it's very, if there's a word to define the panorama, is fragmented, because as you stated, it's actually a small number of airlines. Actually, in terms as a number of airlines, it's a small number of airlines who are actually pursuing a direct distribution strategy and an NDC-based distribution strategy. But it happens, of course, in some regions, like in Europe, and the three big groups are heavily pushing for this. So in Europe, it creates it's a very relevant trend. It's not something that it's happening, I don't know, somewhere in the middle of Asia. I don't know. It's a very local trend. In the US as well, the adoption is being big, but the biggest difference between Europe and the US is that in the US there haven't been the so-called GDS surcharge, which is a huge argument that the European carriers are using to push the airlines to switch to the NDC, to the direct NDC channel. So yeah, of course, this creates a very different landscapes, very different set of motivations or no motivations at all for agencies to start considering NDC as a real alternative. I mean, the first big push made towards NDC distribution was the GDS surcharge introduced by Lufthansa. I think it was the year 2016. This is 4 years ago now. This was followed by IAG and Air France-KLM. And recently, like 1 year ago, I think it was Qantas who did the first move outside Europe. And recently, a couple of weeks ago, Singapore Airlines was the one that did this move in Asia. But not only, I mean, this is not all. Lufthansa kept European carriers kept pushing, and they started removing the light fares from the GDS because they're in position to do this. And recently, I don't know if you read, but 1 month ago, there was a big, I don't know how to call it, Sabre announced that Lufthansa was by the 13th of June, 30 of June, they were removing all their content of the GDS. So this created a big debate in the industry because there's a lot of agencies that still were relying on the GDS for booking Lufthansa content, and this was a big situation, right? But in the end, it didn't happen, by the way. It's today the content is still there, but it shows that at some point there are carriers that are willing to sacrifice entirely a whole GDS channel, and we're talking about 30%, well, probably not 30% volume, but we're talking about 3 GDSs, and they're willing to somehow sacrifice one of them. So this gives a big proof of the commitment, especially from Lufthansa Group with direct distribution.
What are more or less the percentages now of the GDS half of airlines ticket sales?
Well, this is very complex. This is super opaque, and it's you hear a lot of statistics, but there's not actually. It's not easy to connect with real. I don't know. It's very difficult to connect this with the GDS's financial results of the quarters, for instance. Especially now with coronavirus, it's going to be even harder because it's going to be very difficult to differentiate. So there's a lot of speech. And there's a lot of conversation about this, a lot of data and numbers and twisted statistics. But I think it was yesterday, the head of distribution of Iberia announced that they're already selling 30% of their B2B, not of the entire volume, but of the B2B volumes through their NDC channel, which in my opinion is a good rate. And so did Lufthansa announce in November last month that it was also close to 25%. So, and this we can consider IAG and Lufthansa the two leading groups in terms of migrating to switching to direct distribution. So we can consider this like the leading numbers.
Where does Airgateway fit into this landscape? You founded this company in Berlin because you spotted the opportunity here, right, to provide services in this area. So can you tell us a little bit what you do and what's your area of specialization between these fields?
I had the opportunity to work closely related to NDC before funding Airgateway. Actually helping IATA with the first launch of events NDC related and so on. So let's say I think I can say that somehow I witnessed the birth of NDC as a standard, as a theoretical standard at least. Where Airgateway sits is let me explain you basically what the airlines are doing. Let's say that they're opening the distribution landscape to anyone who wants to become an aggregator. In the GDS model, only the GDSs could act as distributors by definition and by architecture, by everything, by all means. In the NDC model, let's say that anyone who has the willing can come and say, okay, I'm going to aggregate all this content for this reason or this purpose or this differentiation with this strategy or these commercials, and start knocking on the airlines door. This is very important. We talk to the airlines, not to the GDSs, of course. That's how direct distribution works. And we put that content in one single point. For, as I said before, many purposes. There can be many motivations and many commercial approaches to do this. But so since the airlines are opening the distribution industry to anyone who wants to take it, that's pretty much the definition of Airgateway itself. It's a company which was born to aggregate all that content, put it in one point with multiple interfaces, because I think that I can say that we are one of the few aggregators, NDC aggregators, which provide a dual interface, both an API and a web interface, so we can provide a full end-to-end solution or a solution for partners that want just to take the content. And this is pretty much our gateway. I mean, anything outside this is probably redundant.
So basically, your customers are, for example, travel distributors or agencies that would like to access the inventory of the airlines with all these additional rich content, information, dynamic pricing, etc., and offer it direct to their customers. And then you, with the tools you have developed, they can do that. You provide them a way to connect with all this inventory that the airlines have for distribution. Yes,
we facilitate. I mean, actually, this is part of the speech of the. I mean, this is the counter NDC or anti NDC speech, of course, sometimes thrown from the GDSs, which difficults the consumption of the content because it's fragmented and it's deaggregated, which is obviously true. So what we do by putting all this content in one point, which we could have a huge debate, a technical debate about how we do this and how it should be accomplished and what pros and cons for each aggregation strategy, but probably this falls out of the scope of the conversation now. But basically, we put all the content in one point so that any kind of travel agent or travel tech partner which is not willing to do all the integrations one by one and going through the certification processes one by one, airline by airline, and just want to take something which somehow replaces the GDSs in the NDC world, that's what we provide. We frequently found ourselves defining Airgateway as a small GDS for NDC, and that's I think that's what we are.
And where do you see this market going? I mean, in terms of distribution, there's been a lot of talk in the industry about how ancillaries are more important. Also, you have lots of different tools, software that is being developed to help the airlines be more efficient. And a word that everyone is mentioning is personalization. It's a bit like the thing that everyone is looking for is a way to match exactly each offering to each passenger or each potential passenger. From your point of view, as an NDC expert and someone that is daily working with airlines and distributors, how do you see this going? I mean, do you think we are any close to this personalization ideal? Do you think that we're going to have a landscape where more airlines are moving on board NDC? What are the trends here?
Yeah, you mentioned personalization. I mean, there are three big arguments that the airlines use to switch towards direct distribution. One is dynamic pricing to enable them to be able to do dynamic pricing. Doesn't mean that they're going to do it the first day, but they know that they won't ever be able to do dynamic pricing in the GDS. That's right now they're on a stage of gaining the control of the channel, let's say, and once they have the control of the channel, they will be in position to do all these three things, which are dynamic pricing, ancillary distribution, and personalization, which is closely related to the second one. So, and also to the third one and to the first one as well, because dynamic pricing also intends to be like a way to personalize the offer, the proposal for each individual, for each specific request which comes to the airline. So everything is heavily related and comes together, but right now I don't think that these things are happening, even when we can say that most of the airlines do have ancillaries and are delivering branded fares through their NDC channels, which is already a goal of NDC distribution itself. But what I was saying is that right now they're in the stage that we are right now, they're more in the state of gaining control of that channel to be able to implement these principles and these ideas, which are contained, which are part of the standard or ship with the standard, let's say.
And well, the inevitable question these days is, how does the pandemic affect your business?
Well, it obviously affects for bad first, but also for good, because such a shake in the industry. One of the big problems of when something is very established and there's a huge status quo where everything turns around that calm situation, is way more difficult to introduce changes, right? But when we're close to a chaos situation, it happens that the previous status quo is not that, it's a bit more vulnerable. So yeah, I don't know if I'm being very optimistic here, but I have the feeling that all the huge established players in the airline distribution will struggle much more than newcomers, and of course I'm including Airgateway in the newcomers, than ourselves. So I have the feeling that, as I said, 1 month ago, Lufthansa announced that they were willing to disband or to dismiss the agreement, the distribution agreement with Sabre, which is something that I don't know if this could have happened 1 year ago in the middle of normality, let's say.
Because the NDC, it's I guess not so relevant. It's not so relevant or not relevant at all for many low-cost carriers. I mean, because I have this idea, low-cost carriers normally distribute mostly direct, but actually some of them might be on GDSs and indirect distribution systems as well. So it might be relevant for them as well, or not.
As you pointed, it's way more relevant for the obvious reasons that for them the B2B channel is way less relevant than the B2C channel. I think that in a conversation with managing role, I think it was Wizz Air a couple of years ago, they told me that they sold 98% of their tickets through their website. Of course, this is not such a relevant, it's not a huge relevant for them to switch the remaining 2% for a channel or another. But actually, let's make very clear that the really low-cost carriers, I'm not talking about the low-cost brands belonging to full-service carriers groups, but the real low-cost brands like EasyJet, Ryanair, and Wizz Air have a very, very different relationship with the GDS than the full-service carriers, starting by the fact that they rarely have their PSS on their system, which is where everything starts from. So not having the same kind of relationship that the full service carriers for the low cost, this is not even a big debate, and it's mostly actually the API based distribution is a very common thing in the low cost world since the early Navitaire years. So this is nothing new for the low cost industry. They already have APIs, which normally are not NDC, are either Navitaire, or they call it Direct Connect, or open travel alliances. In some cases, I think this is the Irish Airlines. Sorry, I always forgot their name.
Is it Aer Lingus or Ryanair?
Yeah, Aer Lingus. Aer Lingus has an OTA standing for Open Travel Alliance. I mean, for the low-cost carriers, this is not such a topic because it's almost irrelevant. Even lately, apparently, there are some low-cost carriers that are starting to have a corporate travel ambition, which are starting to consider NDC or the API-based distribution for achieving this goal. But this was not, in general, this was not the trend for the last 20 years.
And one question, what are the obstacles, what are the costs of adopting NDC standards? I mean, if you're an airline, let's assume you're a legacy full-service airline, what would prevent you from adopting NDC? Is it because of the institutional relations they have with GDSs? Is it because there is some technical barrier? I'm just asking this because, as you said, like not all airlines are on board with this. So if it's a way to facilitate others to sell your tickets and sell more tickets in general, why an airline wouldn't adopt it straight away?
It's not, I don't think it's selling more tickets, but selling them better and selling them, of course, at a very different distribution cost. Consider that on the direct channel, they don't have the GDS distribution cost, which is conceptually, I mean, this is a fixed cost established in the late 80s or early 90s. Of course, a huge cost for nowadays. So I don't think it's more a matter of increasing the tickets that they sell, but sell them at a lower cost.
But
if we talk...
with the amount of hybridization we are seeing with some full-service carriers now introducing some elements of low-cost carriers, like discontinuing some free service and introducing ancillaries, I guess that's also a way for them to sell these ancillaries better, right? Because one of the capabilities of NDC is that it makes it easier for the distributors to push these ancillaries or to include them into the final.
That's it. It's a way to decommoditize a bit the seats, which is for the word they traditionally have been selling. And yes, well, it's an investment, of course. Not all airlines are in position to do the investment, either if you do it through a big consulting firm specialized in travel, or if you do it with one of the out-of-the-box options in the industry, which are Fairlogics, Datalex, and these kind of companies. In any case, of course, we're talking about a relevant investment, and it's not only that. Even it's like a mindset. It's an effort. It's a huge effort. It's an organization that you have to do, and well, till today, we've only seen such a very clear commitment, mostly in Europe. With Qantas and Singapore Airlines, and in the US, they're kind of somehow in the middle of making decisions. I don't know, it's kind of undecided. To be honest, sometimes I don't understand the distribution approach in the US for the US carriers, because it's somehow like in the middle of nowhere. It's not clear enough towards direct distribution, but it's not. But they have a direct distribution ambition. I don't know. It's in my opinion, the European way is way clearer, more understandable.
But they
make an investment, they want to push for it.
As an airline, if you have to make an investment, is it the setup cost? So you have to create these APIs, I guess, and then you need to invest as well to manage that? Or how does it normally work internally at an airline?
These kind of questions always have a "it depends" response, because it's very super changing from one airlines to another. We have examples like I would say Lufthansa and IAG doing a very, very clear and focused work in terms of gaining ownership, processes, commercial, the involving their commercial network in the process, and everything together. And that you have other airlines which have NDC initiatives, and they have been proven to be unable to onboard partners. Partner agencies. Their technology is weaker. Is definitely the readiness is not the same, and I don't know. We can see this even within Europe. Not so within the same region, we see very different readiness of the airlines for this. I have to say that by far, Lufthansa and IAG are the two better position so far in terms of timing, processes, control, technology, readiness in general, and the rest of carriers, either because they don't have a clear commercial policy. When I say commercial policy, I'm talking about, for instance, GDS or charges. They throw a very confusing message. They talk about NDC all the time, but then they're unable to run certification processes. For instance, a big European carrier, which is not one of the two mentions above before. And I don't know, it's very changing, and this creates a lot of complexity that the small companies like us have to deal with, and that's where we are.
Mm-hmm. And just to start wrapping it up, there is another initiative from IATA that it's often mentioned alongside NDC, and that's the one order. Can you tell us what's one order and how does it fit into this story?
Yes, you're right. It's commonly mentioned alongside, but considering myself quite deep knowledge about NDC, I have to admit that when it comes to one order, I'm still confused about who is the ownership. Who's the ownership of this standard? Because to be honest, so far I've been only seeing presentations and PowerPoints and a lot of talk about it, certifications, but I haven't ever seen a one order API or something. So to the day of today, I have to say that one order still confuses me. And as I said, quite familiar to the NDC idea, the NDC concept, and NDC implementation. So I don't know if it's a matter of communication, or of course can be my fault. But to the day of today, don't have a clear views. The clear views I have over NDC, which understand why it's happening and how it's happening and where and when. When it comes to one order, I have a lot of questions around. So as I said, I can't provide as much light as I can do with NDC.
This NDC as well, it's been a kind of a slow process. I've been following this for quite some years, and there's always this sense of expectation, but it seems that it's kind of slow, right? Slow adoption.
Yes, it's slow. As I said, everything involving airline distribution is a heavily resilience industry, switching especially when it comes to the pipes, because this hits deep in the pipes of the industry, is extremely sensitive in all means. So it's very slow. But as I said, I don't know. I have the feeling that 2020 being a super strange year for the industry, it has been better than worse for direct distribution, because it somehow is creating this feeling of, okay, let's reset our minds, let's revamp a bit the situation when you spend 3 months or 6 months at home, almost without the possibility of working. You come back to work with a different mindset, that's for sure. In many ways, probably it will also affect to the so-called corporate travel industry as well. I read a lot of articles with stating these kind of predictions, which of course sounds pretty reasonable to expect something like this. So I think that there are some cons. Of course, the situation is not the optimum right now in the industry by far. We're gonna see a slow recovering, hopefully starting in September, October, something like that. But since we're a small player, we have very reduced costs right now. We could adjust to the situation very, very fastly. We didn't talk to governments and things like that. We didn't ask for for government bailouts and things like that. So we did it. We did the homework in a matter of days, and I think that now we're ready to wait for the retake, the re-entering, return of the industry back to life, and everything that everything that comes will be great news for us.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope the things comes back a bit and we all get back to normal really soon. In any case, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you, Jorge. I hope we will be able to coincide again at some event of the industry, as we have done in several occasions in the past. And just finishing by wishing you all the best with your company, your growing technology company.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. It has been the same pleasure. As you said, I hope that we meet very soon in an event. That will mean that we have back events. So it will be great news for the industry. And either with a mask or with whatever, but hopefully we have the opportunity to meet soon, face to face, anywhere in the world.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mikael. You too. Have a great time.